Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Reveal Report. I'm your host, George Iceman. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 2 weeks. I've been off. I took some much needed time, a little break, and spent some time with friends and family. Most importantly, I had a great weekend with my good friends for my birthday last week. It was my birthday last week, so just needed some time to de-stress and relax and unplug from this internet stuff and just do my own thing. So I appreciate the patience and the support and love, everyone. So thank you so much. Welcome to tonight's show as we get into Vatican urban legends. What is that? Vatican urban legends. There are a lot of things written about the Vatican. Conspiracies, urban legends. People want to know what's going on. We're going to touch on those things tonight. I'll be joined very shortly by my special guest. Everyone loves this guy, and he's getting more and more popular. I don't know what lineup I have to wait to get him on the show for November, December. I hope he's gotten me written in the book already. He should know. I was one of the first guys. I came out, and I've been talking about him, Gary Wayne, and so happy to have him here, and my audience loves him. Thank you for being here, Gary. We'll get him on you soon. My co-host coming up, Miss Jessie Zabolder, of course, doing great things. She has a couple of new programs that you could follow up on. I think it already started in October, so take a listen. She'll get into that. And, of course, an author with some great books on some amazing information. So we got a great panel, guys. We're going to get started, a great open table to get into these discussions following this YouTube show. We're going to do an after show. That's the point where you can ask your questions. People do have questions, and we're going to do a round table and do a Q&A on Patreon right after this. The link is in the description. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's do a special few shout-outs, shall we? Okay, special shout-out going out to Carmen S. and Lisa M. for being great supporters on PayPal this week. Thank you so much. Guys, Carmen S., Lisa M., the originator, two beautiful, powerful, strong women that support this show. And I always said, George, don't stay exclusive on Patreon. Keep the information on YouTube so everyone can see. However, it is time consuming. There's work and effort and energy. I actually have to hire a new person coming up to get things done. So everything helps. And Carmen S.'s contribution and Lisa M. keep this show on YouTube on Monday. So please give them a thank you in the description below. And if you can, go to paypal.com/George Iceman and show a little love. Much appreciated. Guys, without further ado, let's bring on my co-host and get the show started. This is Miss Jessie Zabolder. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Good to be here.
Vatican urban legends. That's what we're going to get into.
Right?
It's going to be
It's going to be a great discussion.
I'm pumped up. We've touched on a few of these stories in the past. Today, we're going to tighten and freshen it up. It's going to have a new outlook. I promise we're going to touch on some things we've never, ever talked about before right here on the show.
That's right. These things. Yeah.
Guys, I know you're sitting there and you're like excited. You may have popcorn, you may have snacks, coffee, tea, water, juice. I don't know what you got, but whatever it is, sit back, get ready, because we're going to get into it right now. Please welcome the notorious one himself. I mean, he's a big TV star now. He's an author. He travels. I'm on a waiting list to get him on the show. The one, the only, the often imitated, never duplicated Mr. Gary Wayne. Gary, welcome back.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. So happy to be here. I would not sort of look at myself as a movie star or TV star or anywhere like that. So, but yeah, happy to be here and happy to be busy.
Well, Gary, I'll tell you, in this industry, the podcast business, especially what we talk about, which is the supernatural, the paranormal, the occult, the esoteric, these type of things, you are a pretty big deal in this field right now. So God bless you. The Lord has given you a great gift of researching, doing knowledge, being well-informed, and sharing that with the masses. So thank you.
Yeah, and if people would like to see me in person, I know there's still some tickets available for the Truther Con. That's down in Dallas this weekend. So if you're in the Dallas region and you want to come down and meet me, I'll be speaking on Saturday, and I'll have a table set up where I'm on the floor throughout the complete convention there, and I sign books and I answer questions.
Really? Very nice. Is this a convention?
It is. It's put on by Jake Grant and Jeremiah Skiba. They have a podcast, and if that last one, Jeremiah Skiba, sounds familiar, It's because his father is quite famous. Passed away, unfortunately, along with his mother. So, yeah, so when you're looking at Skiba and the two Skibas in this sort of genre, Rob Skiba is the one obviously I'm referring to as the author. Wrote many books on giants, and
Oh,
yeah, he died during COVID, and then just recently,
oh.
Sheila passed away in the last year.
Well, my condolences and prayers to everyone in the family.
Yeah, so I'm
Um,
happy. So I guess what I was saying, so I'm happy to be working with him, and I also know Jake from the Now You See TV people. So they were the third group that got me started with a platform on
wow,
doing videos and things. So
excellent. All
Very
right.
nice.
We're going to get into it in just a moment. Big special thank you going out to Vicky. Vicky just sent a little something my way for my birthday. So kind and nice and precious. Thank you very much, Vicky, for sending something on PayPal for my birthday. It means a lot. You didn't have to do that, but thank you so much. Lots of love going out to Vicky. All right, guys, let's get into it. This is what the youth is looking at. They're looking at TikTok, they're looking at YouTube, they're looking at Instagram videos, and they're fascinated. This new generation is fascinated with conspiracies, the occult, urban legends. I found a few urban legends about the Vatican, and I want to get into it. I got a video I'm going to play, and then I want to get Jesse's take, and I want to get your take. This may go deep because it actually has some pretty good information in these particular videos. So, without further ado, here it is. Take a look at our first video.
What if Lucifer isn't ruling hell, but buried alive under the Vatican? In 1853, during renovations beneath St. Peter's Basilica, workers found a hidden stone chamber. Inside was a coffin as black as obsidian, wrapped in 7 chains, each engraved with strange symbols. A priest who examined it swore the markings were seals, not to bless the coffin, but to keep something inside. For centuries, the church kept it secret, but history tells another story. Each time the world plunged into chaos, 1914, 1945, 1968, 2001, a chain was found broken. Now the only 3 remain. They say at night deep beneath Rome, guards still stand watch, and sometimes they hear breathing. One Vatican insider claimed he heard a whisper from inside the coffin, a voice so deep it shook the air. Tell them, I'm almost free.
Tell them I'm almost free. And a few chains broke during world events. Now, we did discuss in the past about a thing under the Vatican, but let's begin first with Jess on her thoughts of that and what's in that information.
Yeah, it's interesting, that they're describing the 7 chains, the seals on there. Just the story of it is kind of gripping and scary, but I'm curious to hear what is going to come of all of this. But
okay, Carrie, let's pass it to you. What have you heard about this? What have you researched on? Talk to us. Does Lucifer's temple live inside the Vatican? Is another demon? What's going on here?
yeah, really, really good stuff. So what we can't do is we can't verify it.
Of course.
So this is urban legend, maybe myth, maybe real. But let's sort of dress up the environment on it a little bit, do the setting here. So everybody knows that the Vatican is one of the major collectors of things from all around the world, whether or not it's artifacts, ancient writings, and who knows what they store beneath the Vatican, just as secret societies and the royales do the same on the polytheist side. And so, that alone sort of should get you to say, well, maybe there's something there, because who knows what they're hiding? Who knows what they've come across in the last 2,000 years that they decided to put down there. I find it interesting as well that other similar urban legends has this as a watcher. So that's an interesting sort of side piece as well. But again, nothing really on that. But what we do know is Vaticanus Hill was not part of the seven septimonium, the seven hills of ancient Rome, started by Romulus and Remus, but Vaticanus Hill was a branch location for a very famous religion, a polytheist religion, and from a prophetic side, and was sort of subservient as a branch to Palatine Hill, where the Sibylline prophecies were located. And so that was thought to be in ancient times as the seat of idolatry, where Babylon will sit. Again, in the Sibylline prophecies, has Babylon sitting on the seven hills of Babylon, of Rome, as it identifies Rome in those sets of prophecies. Whether they're Jewish, whether they're polytheist, whether or not they're true or not, that's just what it says. So this has an end time connection, so to speak, that is playing out because of the chains being broken. And 7 is an interesting number. It's kind of like a fallen angel, 7 seals or 7 trumpets or 7 bowls as a precursor, right? And that this could be sort of as you sort of carry out that sort of thought process, then this might be what releases fallen angels, when the 7th chain might be following that type of imagery, right? Which starts to get you now into Revelation 6, where the seals are being opened. So maybe it's an add-on, or maybe it's real, that it is part of the precursor of the fig tree generation as we move into the end time, if indeed we're in the end time. So chains are associated with Azazel in the occult. And that he's chained up in Orion, and that in the end time he's going to be released, and he's going to fall to heaven, or fall from heaven down to the earth. Now, biblically, we don't get anything on Azazel, but in the book of Enoch, he's actually in the pit prison. So when we get an accounting in Revelation 9, we have a star that falls from the earth to open up the pit prison. A star is an allegory for an angel, fallen or otherwise, and this one falls from the sky. So again, nothing too specific there, but it might be interpreted as this after the final chain breaks, with the sorrows creating great wars and catastrophes leading up to the last 7 years. You might have that as a release, and that's when he comes out of the pit prison, leading the other beings that are trapped in there, because he'll have the key to be able to unlock that and really sort of get those last 7 years moving in a very precarious direction. So all of that sort of sounds interesting, and you can connect some dots, but here's a couple of things that maybe we should be looking in a different direction. And I'll say this because a watcher, whether it's Azazel or another powerful angel, would be too powerful. I don't care what sort of ritual you put on them. I don't care what sort of seals that you put that on there, and just in writing, they would be too powerful for that. And they're a spirit being, so there wouldn't be breathing unless they're trapped in their body somehow. But again, they create their own body, create their own oiketerion, so they can decreate their oiketerion, if you follow that sort of logic. And oiketerion means a dwelling place for the spirit or the soul and the body of the physical world. So I don't think it could be that, but if you go to a lesser being in the hierarchy, let's say demonic, could this be a spirit of the Antichrist that's chained there? Well, probably not, unless somehow they found and were able to trap this demonic spirit. And I'm talking about the Catholic Church now trapping it. And who knows? I mean, early on, they may have had the power to be able to do that. And maybe they still do. We just don't really see their power being exercised. But I would say likely if they had that power, it was early on in the church. So if that's the case, then that could be it, except that we do have to keep in mind that when the spirit of the Antichrist is talked about in the epistles of John, it's always with us. It's not like it's ever been trapped. It's not like it's going to be released. It's just with us. So again, I don't think it's the Antichrist spirit that might be there. So what else could it be? It could be maybe something like a Nimrod or a Gilgamesh or a giant that is one of the terrible ones that is talked about in Ezekiel 32 that was trapped in this, because we know from occult accounts you could control the demons with rituals, with seals, with writings. So they may have trapped him in there as one of these evil, terrible ones that is going to be an Antichrist wannabe versus Antichrist, Antichristos. So mixing the Greek and the Hebrew there. Sorry about that. So I think we might, if there's any truth to it, then it would be something very evil that is a precursor to the last 7 years. And I would look more for a Nephilim that's still either in its body or it's just this demon spirit. Because we also know that the jinn, which are demons at the lower grade level versus the iblis or angelic level, iblis for people who are iblis, or for people who aren't aware of it within the Quran, is the name that they give to Satan. And he's a jinn as well. Jinn is the root word for genie and a demonic being. And in the Arabic traditions, you can trap a genie in a lamp. You can trap a genie in vessels of certain things that comes about with the mythos of how they want to get out, right? Because they're trapped in there. So being trapped fits more of a Nephilim or just the demonic spirit of the Nephilim, the disembodied spirit. And the 7 chains, they have some strength, so you do want to do it to a certain degree. But it has imagery. But what we do know is if it's a coffin, it can't have been in there all that long. Otherwise, it would degrade unless it's metal. But even metal is going to degrade after a while. So it has a shelf span. It's just how old is it? And then the other shelf span would be the age of the church. So whatever went in there is less than 2,000 years old in terms of when it was captured.
That was
Intriguing.
very excellent explanation, very good details, a great perspective of what that could be. I do agree. I find it to be very fascinating. Again, these are urban myths, urban legends circulating around the Vatican. But guys, the Vatican isn't doing anyone any favors with how they present themselves. The things that they do is very conspiratorial, it's very gothic, very mystic and dark. So I don't know why they do some of these things if they know people are going to start rumors and speculation. What do I mean by that?
Right.
Well, let's get into this specifically. A piece of art that is in the main room where they give speeches. Take a good look at this piece of art. This is called The Resurrection. And it looks like someone being torn apart by demons. Here's a closer look. Screaming, demons coming apart. I don't understand how this is artistic and helps bring people closer to God. So I'm going to give Jesse an opportunity to comment first, and then Gary. Jesse, what are your thoughts on this piece of art at the Vatican?
I don't think it's meant to bring people closer to God either, especially with the tapestry that's supposed to be there behind it. In their Kabbalahism, you have 2 major symbols that they're going to signify, both being connected to the Hikpath, which is the tree of death. And, when you see that imagery there, when you know that Kabbalah tree, you've got a main line that goes down the middle, you have the 2 supports on the side. The top part, they're going to signify with the Solomonic star, which is the 6-pointed star. It's going to represent the ascension into their godhood. And let's say their messianic views with that is the first portion of the Messiah is to, represent the snake, Nehushtan, as they'll say, And that imagery is to bring Israel to God. The bottom part of the tree is going to be signified with the pentagram, and that's going to signify the scorpion Messiah and the rise of the scorpion Messiah from the, you know, the abysses below. So that when I look at that imagery, I see the Kabbalah tree of death and, you know, the ascension of their scorpion Messiah up into the earth is what I feel that represents. But they'll tell you it's meant to represent Christ descending into hell, and, you know, that he had victory over hell, but that image of him surely does not look very victorious.
And I'm going to give Gary an opportunity once again to answer this and his point of view, because that's important. I want to get everyone's perspective here. But you'll have to agree again, the Vatican does themselves no favors by doing things of this nature and then telling you, come and join us, come pray to us, and make donations to us, listen to us, follow our doctrine. Yeah, people are going to run rampant with conspiracies when they see this type of thing. But I don't want to digress. There's more to touch on. Gary, first, what's your thoughts on this photo?
Yeah, there's a number of stories as to what the Vatican says it is, and I've read several of them, and it might be variant, and I know it's supposed to be sort of modern sort of art and representative, but it's not very well representative as you see a depiction of Christ there, if that's what they say it is, and they tend to, but sort of dress it up with that's the end time, and the judgment is one of the things that comes out. It is also, as Jesse said, Jesus descending into hell to visit with the spirits, but those are skeletons, so they're not really spirits.
Yeah.
Right? They're almost reptilian in nature and how that whole imagery sort of looks. And the other one would be the resurrection of Israel in Ezekiel 37, that's followed by the second Exodus in that chapter. And this is part of the reconciliation of Israel and the resurrection of the dry bones. But again, that's not what the Vatican says. But if you wanted to get sort of the most biblical as what that might be, that would be more of an Ezekiel 37 picture, but that's not what they're portraying it as. I think when we get a little deeper into this, we have to look at what it's encased in. And if people don't know what I mean by that, it's the building. And I'm struggling to remember the name of the building that it's in, but it's shaped like a serpent's head.
Yeah.
And everything associated with it is kind of serpentine.
Do you mean this building here?
Yeah, that's the inside, let alone the outside. Is actually in the shape of a serpent's head.
A serpent's head. This is the inside. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a building in the Vatican that they hold prayer and speak to people. And again, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but this looks like a snake, like a serpent to me. There's the teeth, there's the eyes. Talk to me. What do you guys think about this?
No, I mean, I think, you know, as we talked about that upper part of the Kabbalah tree, that upper part representing the snake, and what do they have at the top? You know, they've got this imagery of the snake. You have their golden dawn imagery of the sideways opals representing, you know, the eyes of Horus. I agree. I think it's a serpent. I think it's representing their occultism, what they worship.
So there is an angel that has a serpent's face, and that's called a seraphim. Okay. Just as Satan is considered seraphim in a serpent or his dragon form. And so a seraphim has a serpent's face or a dragon's face and 6 wings. It's a heavenly serpent or dragon. Yeah. And so, but you're not supposed to make an image of anything on the earth or in heaven. And so how would they get there to do this? So we get there in 2 ways. One is a polytheist way, and then another way is to pull something maybe out of the Bible. And then, unfortunately, again, on how the Vatican tends to get caught into some of these things, or intentionally gets caught into some of these things, it's like a double entendre as to what they're really representing there. So And we covered this, I believe, in the last show, where we had this copper brazen serpent's head put up on a pole in the book of
Yes.
Numbers. And also in the book of John, Jesus says in John 8, I'm going to be raised up like the serpent in the wilderness in the time of Israel. So they may be making a reference to that they're raising Jesus up, or that's the raised Jesus in that sort of allegory and image. But it is so distasteful and clumsy. Why would you even go in that sort of direction? It just makes no sense that you would do such polytheist imagery of Uraeus gods, the serpentine gods, like Osiris, like Baal, like Anki, like Zeus, and then put that up within your building where you're going to be doing worship and praying, and then have the building outside look in a similar way. It's absolutely you would not be recommended to do that in a monotheist sort of way of doing things. It just makes no sense to me.
No. Again, so much going on with the Vatican. It almost they wonder, why do people say these type of things? I mean, it's in plain view. I'm going to touch on another urban legend. This is something we've never talked about on this show, and it has to do with 3 ladies that have said to have some type of immortality. I'm going to play a video. I want everyone to take a look and listen. There's another urban legend that's gone viral, and I'll get both your takes on it. So, let me just play it. It speaks for itself, and let me get your feedback on it. Here it is.
This is the only evidence that 3 women witnessed the crucifixion of Christ and are still alive. And the most chilling part? They're now being hunted. In 1897, a long-lost Vatican codex was accidentally discovered in the underground archives of St. Peter's Basilica. The text spoke of 3 women who had not been touched by time, witnesses to the crucifixion, guardians of a sacred secret. For centuries, no one took it seriously. But then the images started to surface. Old photographs, wartime newspapers, records from revolutions. And in them, the same 3 women, identical, in different countries, with the same eyes, still deep and empty. In 2008, a Spanish historian managed to recover part of the codex. It read, "They swore to protect the blood of truth, but if they are found, the seal will break." Weeks later, he was found dead in his home, his face frozen in a forced smile, as if he'd seen something divine or monstrous. In April of this year, the 3 women were seen for the last time. In Jerusalem, security cameras captured them walking toward the Western Wall and vanishing. At that exact moment, a mild earthquake shook the city. The ground split open, and something beneath it took a breath.
This is unbelievable if it's documented correctly. Again, conspiracy, urban legend. What's going on with this story? 3 women, to my understanding, bear witness to the crucifixion and were bound to walk the earth for 2,000 plus years. Wild. We begin with you, Jesse. What are your thoughts on this urban legend?
Some intriguing parallels with that. Let's just say, if it was true, is that, during the crucifixion, you have the earth being shaken. You have those who supposedly, were dead in the Lord rising and coming into the city and witnessing for 40 days and 40 nights. So, let's just say that these women were part of that crowd. Could they have been part of that crowd? Could that explain the earthquake and some of the other things? I'm curious to see if there's a tie-in with that.
Very interesting. Okay, Gary, give us your take. What do you believe is going on with the story? What do you know about it? And what similarities are to others that are out there?
Yeah, interesting again, and I think we want to be careful with this again because we don't really have the type of evidence you'd like to have to say, yes, that's exactly what's going on. There was some interesting pictures on there, but we don't really have something that we can prove that links them back to the
Mhm.
cross. But I would not rule it out biblically. That's the thing.
Yes,
And then I'll also talk a little bit on the polytheist side. But
please.
can the Bible lead us in this direction? Well,
Mhm.
yeah, it can, because we know you had Mother of Mary, you had Mary Magdalene, you had other women that were involved in and around the crucifixion and involved with Jesus. So certainly a possibility. We know there was people attending
Mhm.
the tomb. So if they were, let's say, they're around when Jesus came back out of Hades and Sheol after doing the spectacle and leading
Yeah.
all of the fallen ones to Mount Hermon and pronouncing judgment on that. If people wondering what I'm talking about there, that's 1 Peter 3, but you connect that with Ephesians 4, Colossians 2, and you get the full details in Psalm 68. So understanding that if Jesus is coming up and is sort of requickening the body, as we get that language out of the KJV, then if they're around that, maybe there's something that they picked up on that gave them some immortality,
Mhm.
They
and
were
that they're,
quickened too.
yeah, they were quickened too, so to speak. And so there's an interesting passage in the book of John. I mean, yeah, the book of John, chapter 21, the last chapter. And this is just before Jesus ascends to heaven. And well, a little bit before that. It's still when Jesus is alive. So let me just correct that just for the sequence of events. And in verse 21, I mean, and it's talking about this individual that is the disciple Jesus loved. And so in verse 21, Peter saith to Jesus, and I'm reading this passage, Lord, and what shall this man do? So it's a man, not a woman, but some people believe the disciple Jesus loved was a female in Mary Magdalene, but that's more of a Gnostic belief.
Mhm.
Verse 23 says, then went this saying abroad amongst brethren that the disciples should not die. Yet Jesus said, not unto him, he shall not die, but only that he will tarry till I come. And what is that to you? So Jesus, I mean, a lot of people think Jesus was going to come in that generation, within that generation, but he didn't. He still hasn't come yet. So that this is something that's pointing towards at least one disciple or apostle, as I'll expand this in a second, that would be alive and likely as a witness to Jesus, because it also says there are also many other things which Jesus did. And if they should be written, every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that it should be written. And just before that, this is the disciple that testifies to all of these things.
Hmm.
So a witness, possibly. So now let's go to Matthew 16 when the church is established. And in Matthew 16:27, it's giving us the typology or the like passages for his second coming, where he's going to come and he's just informed the disciples that he's going to have to be punished, crucified, and then he'll resurrect. So he's preparing them with all of this information. And it says, the Son of Man will come in glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. So that's setting up what Matthew and the Gospels are going to be talking about when he comes back with his sign. But it's verse 16. So we know it's an end time passage. We know it's
Mhm.
part of the second coming. And Matthew 16:28 says, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste death till they see the Son of
Wow.
Man coming in his
Wow.
kingdom. So all of a sudden now we're getting an expansion to,
Mm.
we don't know how many disciples, how many apostles, how
Interesting.
many followers of Christ might have that blessing. And if you just had one passage, you might brush it away, but we have two, and they sort of support each other, that there's going to be something in the end time about the witnesses who saw him crucified.
Wow. Can you read that last thing about witnesses again, one more time? That was very interesting.
Yeah, it said, "Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." John 21:24. This is the disciple Jesus loved, that Jesus was talking to at the table at the Last Supper. This is the disciple which testifieth of these things and wrote these things, and
Wow.
we know that his testimony is true. And then it goes on about everything that Jesus did. He testified and wrote it down.
Jeez. I mean, it's an urban legend, but can you imagine this? Anything is possible in the Holy Bible. Anything is possible with Jesus. Anything. It's unbelievable if this be true, especially with the documentation of when they saw them and something happened where they vanished and it opened up, the ground opened up. Wow. Shocking.
Yeah. Now,
We did go ahead, please.
I was just going to say on the polytheist side, 3 and 3 women, as in the 3 fates of destiny,
Right.
Ah,
could be at play as well.
could be at play as well. Gotcha. Okay.
And when I saw
Metaphor.
when I saw
Metaphor.
the first images of 3 older women, almost as they were dressed, it reminded
Yes.
me very much of the mythos and the legends of
Yes.
polytheism
Yes.
of the 3 fates.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Me as
Again,
well.
listen, guys, the Vatican is filled with these type of stories, and it makes us question what's going on, what's happening. There's some other art I want to share with you guys that, again, if the Vatican is about purity, forgiveness, and bringing you in to educate you, to teach you, to, show you the right way to live, why do they use such dark, evil presentation to scare you away? I don't understand that. Here's a piece of art. Let me show you what I mean. This is a very interesting piece of art. This is the statue of Lucifer inside the Holy Trinity Church. Now, this church isn't used for mass, but there it is. And let me show you a little bit closer up so you can understand this. Those are real feathers used. Those are wires holding them together. Somebody quoted this piece of art, and it said this piece comes from the 4th book of Satan or something like that. And it was something along the lines of, me, miserable, which way shall I fly? Infinite wrath and infinite despair. Some people go on to talk about how they feel sorry for Lucifer, the individual, the character. This is wild stuff. To present this in a church as a piece of art to come in and see. Thoughts? Begin with Jesse.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I noticed, and I've seen this statue before, but in the left corner there, we see, the pole with the cross with the 3 crossbars, which is going to represent, quadrant leadership. So it's curious that they have, that symbol in that, in that area with him. So,
3 poles, correct.
it's like, huh. But, I've heard too that it comes from that 4th book of Satan, and that, we talked about like the structures of the buildings too, where the building that it is, when you have that kind of half dome shape as well, that is representing a place where they're going to have a temple, meaning there's going to be an altar, and, it's going to specifically represent a temple of Ashtaroth or of Artemis, and be connected to certain other places, where they have temples of Artemis as well. So we see your typical, structure in this building that they have this statue in, which I find intriguing, but not in a good way intriguing. It's just, why in the world would you put that in a church? It's like, who thinks of stuff like that? But
Yep. Gary, I throw it to you. Thoughts on this particular piece of art on display of Lucifer in the Vatican, one of the churches there?
Yeah, really interesting again because, it's like, why do it? What's the point? And unfortunately, there's no good points to be made for doing something like that. The Book of Wisdom of the KJV Apocrypha, it talks about the antediluvian period when idols were the things that's got the whole ball rolling that led the world astray. And so making images of anything of angels and will lead to worship of them. They love polytheism is built on worshiping those idols. And so now you put up whether or not it's actually Satan or it might be another fallen angel. Who cares? It's designed to be worshiped in a worship place. It's not art decorating. It's evil that's encroaching into the church, or it's actually because that they are actually worshiping that angel, whoever it is in that particular church, and the people know whom they're worshiping, and they can do it in plain sight. And so when we look at the imagery in there again, you almost get the sort of the imagery, and particularly Jesse was sort of hitting on it, was sort of this dome structure and polytheism feeling within it. And these dome temples, one of the most famous ones would be the Pan Temple. That's kind of like the White House is built on because it's a white temple in terms of the imagery. Um, and that's at Mount Hermon. And Pan was a satyr god, a goat god. Azazel is a goat god, just as Satan can be associated with the goat god as well. But Azazel is the one sort of most what we would be more familiar with and probably a little bit more connection. So just as Satan can be depicted with horns, so does these satyrs. And originally you had Azazel as a seraphim angel that was degraded to satyr status, in terms of what my research shows. And so these are horned gods, right? These are a series of horned satyr gods. I mean, horned gods like Odin, horned gods like Cernunnos, horned gods like Cern or Kern in the Etruscan pantheon. And the Etruscan pantheon is the home root religion for the Sibylline religion in both Palatine Hill and Vaticanus Hill back in ancient times. And so you have this connection, and CERN is a Indo-European or Indo-Aryan word. It can be spelled CERN or KERN, and pronounced Kern or Quran as it shows up as horn in Hebrew. And it means a horn-headed deity. I mean, so why would you have that imagery that's pointing to either Satan or to a specific chief of the fallen watchers, who was probably the chief Satan of the seven Satans, in a church? But
Yeah, can I answer that actually? Because there's
yeah,
more
Yes,
to that
please.
picture. Go back to that last one. When you look at the floor there, you see the statue just kind of, above this six-pointed star. In the middle of that, you have the letters IHS, which are very symbolic with some of the Jesuit orders. But what comes into play with all this is that, as you get different knights groups connected to the sovereign military that are going to be working through different successions to, they'll either be just a knight, or maybe if they want to be a regional leader over knights in their region, they'll become a preceptor. And then you get the three crossbars in a cross representing that you've got your next layer, which are going to be your quadrant leader knights over other knights. And what we see is that, Jesuit symbol, where do we see that in their badges and their images? It's in a second succession, which is going to be connected to your order of the seraphim. So, in places like this, they will bow down as they've enter into that order of seraphim, or as they take their next vows, you know, they'll go beyond Lucifer there and kneel before that cross to become quadrant leaders. So you see all that, you know, on the floor there. You can look up and you'll see that blue symbol in the order of the seraphim, the blue stone in the middle with the IHS on it, and the two, like that 6-pointed star specifically in that shape, is going to connect to your order of the seraphim, because it is like the two, like you'll see angel wings above, angel wings below, is what that's representing.
Wow. It's a lot of stuff here to unpack, guys. A lot of stuff. Again, I mean, are we just looking too much into this and looking for things? I don't know, but this is what the topic is: urban legends of the Vatican. We got one final one to touch on, and that's the urban legend that the Vatican worships the sun. Sun worship. Interesting. We take a look at some of the photos of the Vatican, and right in the middle, they have an Egyptian obelisk. We'll get into that. But the way you look at it, and then I went to go see a sundial. Guys, is it possible that it's true about the urban legend that maybe those who created the city of the Vatican possibly looked at the influence of sun worship, the stars? What are your thoughts on this and these obelisks from Egypt? Why would you use an Egyptian obelisk in the Vatican? What are we doing here, guys? Talk to me. What's happening? What worship? What's going on? Can someone answer me why Egyptian obelisks are in the Vatican and why it's meant to look like a sundial? Jesse, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Well, I think beyond just a sundial, like when I see that imagery, like if you go back to that one with all the lines, you see kind of that wagon wheel appearance going on there. And you'll notice the lines on the wagon wheel. You've got lines that are directional, like your north, south, east, west. You also have what looks like an X in the off points, like at the 1, the 4, I think it's the 7 and the 10 o'clock mark there. All of that imagery, you know, is connected to their ritual seasons. And many times in their symbology, you'll see it as like a nautical star where you have those 8 points telling you that they're going to engage. You know, they're only required in the system to participate in 4 rituals a year, which are going to be your, you know, your Easter, your Halloween, your Christmas, and then either your spring or your fall equinox. But when you see all 8 like that, it means that they're going to engage in all major 8 ritual seasons there in that place. And, you know, that going back, that imagery of the wheel, going back, I'm sure Gary could expound, you know, to the giant's wheel and certain end time ritual places, you know, where they are going to engage in that worship further.
Gary, what's happening here? We have Egyptian obelisks here in Rome. We have, it looks like some type of a sundial. Is it a sundial? Is it some type of sigil on the floor to represent its territory, who it belongs to? I don't know, but there's a lot coming from here. What's your opinion tell you about all this?
A lot of polytheist imagery in there for sure. So let's start with the basic one that people might be able to visualize. I would have people look at Egyptian reliefs where you have the sun disk, whether it's on a head or in a separate location. And typically with the sun disk, you got the yellow sun in the middle, which is represented by the sundial. And then you would have, sometimes you have almost like 2 points, like a Egyptian boat that goes into the other world, or could be 2 horns or just 2 holders. And so that's kind of what I sort of see with that sun disk being the black part in the middle, represented by the solar dial, and then you have the horns, as in the, the two horns of the fertility goddess, right? That's part of that bull and sun worshiping
Yes.
cult, right? And that whole area is very much Egyptian imagery, and then of course it's punctuated with the obelisk there. So now, when you look at the sun disk and you look at the religion of the giants, they have a wheel understanding of things on a sort of a micro level as in a year, and on a macro level as you get into celestial procession and ages and things like that. So the eight holy days of the year, as the two equinoxes and the solstices are four that Jesse talked about, but she also referenced to the other four, which are 6 weeks in between. So like you would have like in Valentine's Day, you have another one that's going to be in at the end of August, for example. And just as Samhain, it's not on an equinox, it's in the middle. It's 6 weeks in the middle, right? So that's how it's sort of spaced. And that's the full worship of the giants' religion of Zoroastrianism, with Mithraism as being a branch of Zoroastrianism, which was absorbed into the original Roman Church and Christianity, along with a lot of Egyptian imagery, like the Egyptian Trinity, as the Masonic Freemasons like to use as their allegory of their Trinity, which would be Osiris, his consort, and Horus. And I say consort because we're on YouTube and I don't want the show to be taken down.
Thank you.
And so when we look at all of that sort of imagery, this has to be talking in that sort of taciturn language and used for worship and things like that. And also the precession of time, just like the wheel calendar in the Aztec is similar, right? And you have the precession of the ages, the zodiac. The zodiac was created by Enoch, son of Cain, along with the bull worshiping sun cult. So it's just the more you look, the more you see of images that are in there. So when Jesse was talking about also the Wheel of Giants, Gilgal Raphaim at the foot of Mount Hermon, it's in concentric circles. Again, because they have that whole circuit with their pilgrimages that's wedded into their wheel of worship dates, that's wedded into all of the other allegories. I mean, it's just layered and layered and layered. Polytheism is with their religious aspects. It's quite ingenious in terms of how much taciturn imagery that they put into their worship. But this is really, I mean, you can't look at that as any other way, as that whole sighting there is not representing a worship of the God of the Bible there. It's the exact opposite.
And it representing, their contracts, because their calendar systems were distinctly connected to the deities and the times, the seasons that they worship those deities.
Guys, again, we could, go on for hours. We already spent an hour talking on some of the Vatican urban legends. Great stuff to go back and watch again, share with friends, guys. And we will continue this conversation and do a Q&A. We'll get into more about this topic following this live on my Patreon. The link is in the description. Before we say farewell and get into our Q&A live, I want to give an opportunity for Jesse to tell people how they can follow and support her ministry.
Yeah, great. Thank you. You can follow me and support me on kingdomlivingwithjesse.com. On there, you'll find my courses, my videos, and some of my newest series, Architecture and Altars. The first 3 in that series are up on the website. And on there, I talk more about the structures of the buildings, how to look at the architecture, and from that, know more about the horned entities and their altars in those places, and where you can find the altars to which beings in those places.
Excellent. Gary, how can people support you and learn more about what you do, sir?
The best way to support me is to buy my books. I don't take any donations. I do conferences, and if they make money, I'll take something off of that, but not if they do not make money. So go to the Genesis6conspiracy.com. That's the number 6conspiracy.com. And on there, you can get a signed copy of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy Part 1 and Part 2. And there's multiple buy pages there. Buy page 1 is for book 1, buy page 2 is for book 2, buy page 3 is the bundling. And there's discounts for buying more than one book, all the way up to 10. There's that many discounts in there as you go along. You can also link over and get the Audible versions to Amazon Audible from the website. You can also link over to Amazon for the Kindle version, and you can link directly over to Amazon for the printed copies as well, right from the website to barnesandnoble.com, amazon.ca, and also amazon.com. There's another book that will be coming out that I've been working on as a co-writer with. I supply the details and stuff like that. It's called the Oprimo Wall. No, I'm sorry, the Oprimo Conspiracy. It's based on an Oprimo wall, and the subtitle will help you with that to a certain degree. It's AI's covenant with Babylon. So it's a fiction about how the end time might play out and how AI will be part of that whole sort of scenario. And Oprimo is a Latin word, means to overwhelm, to oppress, to crush. And so not only does that have application to the AI that's going to be talked about in the book, but also it's a reference also to the Seventh Empire and the Sixth Empire that crushed all of its crushed all of the nations, and will do so again in the end time. So expect that's going to be out in sometime in 2025. And the co-writer is Bill Carmichael, and he's the publisher for my books. So we're hoping that that's going to catch on to a certain degree. And we put a lot of layering in the books, and may talk a little bit more about it downstream. But the names, locations, and so many other things will be Google worthy in terms of wanting to find information more about those, because we layered it with that sort of thought process that we want people to interact and learn more.
Amazing. Incredible. Jesse's got books. Gary's got books. I don't have a book. I will work on one soon. It'll be my paranormal experiences. I'll share with everybody. Hey, guys, got to do a special shout out once again for these amazing ladies who came through. Guys, Vicky, Stephanie S., Carmen S., Lisa M. A few others have joined and threw a little something to Patreon for this show and for my birthday, and I'm grateful and thankful. So please take a moment in the comments and thank these amazing, powerful, strong, beautiful women. I'm so grateful. Vicky, thank you. Stephanie S., thank you. Carmen S., thank you. And the original Miss Lisa M., thank you so much. Beautiful woman supporting the show, beautiful co-host. And I think it's only me and Gary that hold it down. Guys, you got to step up. Come on. It can't be just me and Gary. Gentlemen, you got to step up to the plate. I need some more guests on the show. And if you're watching the show right now and you request or recommend someone you'd like me to interview and have on the show with us, let us know in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much. I can't wait for the after show coming up next. On behalf of Jesse and Gary and myself, George Iceman, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week. Good night and God bless everyone.